Good day, and welcome back to the Vitality Project. I'm Dr. Bob, and I appreciate you joining me. Yesterday, we opened into our learning to express our most vulnerable emotions, like fear or sadness, even at the same time as we acknowledge that this can be very difficult. It is very challenging to be vulnerable. It can be even more challenging when we're faced with addictive enslavement. We've been comparing, actually equating addiction with enslavement. And when we're faced with this on the part of somebody close to us, it can be the most difficult to open into vulnerable feelings. It's hard, but I want to say this too, it's not impossible. But let me ask myself and yourself a question, and that is, what could make it even worth trying to be vulnerable? Recall for just a second how I recently shared with you that the scientific finding that points to stress as the #1 trigger for relapse to addictive behaviors. Do you have any guess what the clients I've seen over the past 40 years have identified consistently as their #1 stressor? If you guessed relationships, you're absolutely right. Let's take it one step further. Any guess which negative human emotion has been identified in medical research as the most stressful to bear? And the way that biologists or researchers in the medical field ascertain what is stressful in terms of our human emotions, they measure spikes in our brain's two primary stress hormones, which are adrenaline and cortisol. And when those spike, you can get at then what causes us the most stress. So again, which negative human emotion do you think has the highest spike? I wonder if you immediately thought of anger. Truthfully, most of the treatment center group participants I've seen over the last 10 years will say exactly that. They'll say anger causes the most stress in us emotionally. And I won't disagree that anger is way up there for sure, as are fear, sadness, jealousy, and a handful of other highly unpleasant emotions. It turns out that the emotion that kicks up the highest spikes in cortisol and adrenaline in our bodies and brains is shame. So in this way of understanding it, shame is public enemy #1 when it comes to being the most stressful negative human emotion of all. And now we begin to understand, or move closer to understanding, why it might be important for us to find some other way to interact with those in our lives who are addicted, other than shaming them. And the shame might come in terms of some kind of aggressive comment, sarcasm, criticism, frustrated blow up, all of those things. All of those are understandable. It's just that when they evoke shame, you've got the #1 trigger for relapse is stress. The #1 most stressful human emotion is shame. You can see right there that you've got an awful perfect storm brewing. So for today, I want you to try to do two different things. First of all, I want you to write down your simplest, clearest definition of the word shame. I purposefully did not define it when we introduced it here. We will do that, but I want you to do this first. Write down your definition of shame. What does it mean to you? Then secondly, I'd like you to identify an instance in your own life when you may have experienced shame most profoundly. Describe it in as much detail as you can, just exactly what shame felt like to you. It'll give us a really strong foundation as we move into looking at shame, the problems that arise in our experiencing shame, as well as evoking shame in others, and then looking for positive alternatives to shaming statements that, while they're natural to share, they're actually destructive of the healing process. So come back for more of that. Thank you for joining me today at the Vitality Project. Very much appreciate it. Hope that you'll stay healthy, be well, come back and join me again tomorrow.